I used to work in the Kimberleys on the oil rigs. We used to come down for a week off. And this was before the America's Cup. And it was a pretty tough crew of guys that you'd work with. And some of the guys would be over at the Sail and Anchor drinking and getting in fights. And I'd be downstairs at Papa's in the basement with another mate of mine just watching the Italians gambling and the little casino running. And it was just great. It was very vibrant. And we were fortunate that after the America's Cup was lost, which was possibly a good thing, that we were able to buy a home in North Fremantle. We rented the house out in 1992 to Brad Pettit. His second year university, he and two friends moved into our little fibro shack on the river in North Fremantle. And he was a great kid. I used to see Brad riding on the back of the recycling trucks around Fremantle. And I was just new in real estate, so I'm all driving around doing miles and miles and miles in Fremantle, and there was Brad. I touched base with Brad again after he'd got elected to the council. We were doing I was on the Land Corp steering committee for the Leighton Beach redevelopment, and Brad was, in his role as a new councillor, was part of that. And we just touched base and talked about things like if I wasn't living in Fremantle, I'd be in Vancouver. And Vancouver is a fabulous town and it's vibrant. And I wish more of that for Fremantle. It's just clear that we've got to get the suburbanization, or we've just got to get more dense or downtown, or we need more people. I enjoyed going to the Chamber of Commerce events and meeting people. I have a great friend, Ray Glickman, who was CEO of Fremantle, that I'd met through that, and other people. And when time came for Brad to talk about running for mayor, I had to go to everybody and say, we need somebody young, let's get him going. And it didn't take much to convince anybody. I think that the way that the Fremantle Society dealt with a lot of things, and some of the councillors that they had elected, was just bad for Fremantle. I think it was negative, and a lot of people certainly felt that way, because when Brad ran, and I never imagined that he would win quite the way he did, and the number of people that they ran against him, and so even a Green coalition running against him with the heritage people, that he swept up and almost won 50% of the vote amongst a field of 6 or 8 people. It was fabulous. So clearly the way I was thinking had some support in the community. It was time for change. It was time for young people. Fremantle needed the next generation to kick in, and Brad Pettit represented them. And sometimes youth is just better than anything you can get. So what can Brad do for Fremantle? What do you reckon? Can we build it a little bit higher, a little bit denser? There'll always be the suburbs, but I think we need to create more housing stock for that transition from young adulthood, before they start their families, and Fremantle needs those people. And at the same time, people of my age that are getting ready to pull up stumps or to relax a little bit, well, let's put them in some of those denser housing stock that we're going to develop in Fremantle. I mean, Fremantle has a responsibility to bring more people in. It has a responsibility to get more populated, denser, higher, perhaps uglier in some people's view. A developer doesn't get a bad idea to make something ugly and then go build it. The developer responds to what the economy, and the people need, what they need to live in. So it would be a shame, like I'm working with some of the owners of major properties in Fremantle now, and I'm saying to them, affordable housing, we need with small apartments. That's where the market is now. 4 or 5 years ago, when things were buoyant, everybody'd be thinking about 120, 140 square meter apartments, and I'm saying no, like here, our apartments are 90 square meters. It's 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a study, and a nice balcony, and people can live there, and it's affordable within a certain range of our population. Should Fremantle have 25-story buildings? I don't think there's any space for it to have 25-story buildings. I mean, you need a certain amount of footprint. So, but 8 or 10 stories, yeah. And for some people that'll find that disappointing, it's a shame, but I'm telling you, the wider community is prepared to support it rather than see Fremantle turn into a sleepy dormitory. Honestly, it's launched. You know, is Brad going to pull it off? Is Brad going to take it to where I think Fremantle could go? I think he's up against it. The guy's going to try and deliver, you know, on what he said he would do, and if he's not able to, then it's likely that the state government will have that requirement, not just the state government, but the federal government. So what people need to support Brad is trying to allow Fremantle to manage that process of bringing in that density, that housing diversity, hopefully the affordability. The worst thing right now is that I did a feasibility on a piece of land, and it could probably accommodate 32 apartments. And it makes far more sense to do 16 townhouses. You know, that's the way it is. The design here of the Rose Hotel redevelopment and these apartments, we were allowed to do 15 townhouses, and we got approval to do 27 apartments. It wasn't any special dispensation, it was a development area. But I will never try and figure out how much money we would have made if we'd just done the 15 townhouses, because I prefer having the 27 apartments. I prefer having these people walking back and forth to the train station, and young families and new migrants, and it's really exciting. It's all building costs. You know, I mean, we're competing with the resource industry to build apartments. It's expensive. Nutstridge Street could be a great opportunity. You know, there's 10 hectares of land held by Landcorp or controlled by Landcorp, and there's another 10 hectares out there. So there's 20 hectares of a brownfield site now. You know, what would you imagine there? I mean, you know, it's so close to Fremantle, and it's such a great lifestyle that maybe you might get up to 10-story buildings and, you know, fairly dense. But it'll probably end up being all townhouses. And it'll probably end up being like a third the population that it could be, because it's just so bloody expensive. And then, you know, you've got that segment of the population that don't want anything to happen, so you've got to fight them. And so you're holding properties, you're paying interest, you know, you've got endless arguments, and so do the townhouses and get out. But it's just a shame that it's not a whole range of housing diversity up there, you know, maybe up to 10 stories or perhaps more. I mean, who's to say? It's up to the wider community to say what they think is appropriate. And for the moment, you know, West Australians don't want the Gold Coast. They don't want Surfers Paradise. You know, neither do I. You gotta appreciate how fortunate you've been. You know, and this is just a great life. You know, I mean, when there's enough to go around, there's enough to go around. And in Western Australia, there's enough to go around.